Thanks again for joining us. Again, this is the 12th annual report for NC Cardinal. And here's what we'll be talking about today. Basically getting into some of the annual statistics, then talking about resource sharing, a little bit about what's happening with Student Access Project this year, some project activities that we got into over the course of the year, some things that happened with the committees, library migrations, the staff survey, some of the support activity, and of course, some of the projects for the year ahead. So here's the Cardinal team, no changes for this year. Everything is stable as it was. So Courtney Brown, our systems librarian, Llewellyn Marshall, our application administrator developer, Samantha O'Connor, our training specialist, Will Szwagiel, our project manager, and myself, Benjamin Murphy. So this past year, Warren County was our only migrating library. That means that NC Cardinal is now in 64 counties, 6 municipalities, 7 special libraries for a total of 224 branches across the state. So let's have a look at some of the circulation and patron statistics for this year. So this year we saw a decline in the active user accounts in all of the categories. So these figures are based on PLS stats. So they include any patrons whose accounts have expired within the last 3 years. So we may be seeing the beginning of that being based on patrons whose accounts expired in 2021 and who have not returned to the library after the disruption of the pandemic. So our total circulation counts continue to grow, and this year passed 11 million circulations for the very first time. In the past year, we had 1.45 million hold requests. 1.27 million of those were delivered to the hold shelf. 4% of those, or about 59,000 holds, were never picked up or expired on the hold shelf. 11%, or about 142,000, were canceled by patrons or staff. In total, 84% of hold requests resulted in the patron checking out the book. So hold activity increased again this year. 44% of hold requests were filled by resource sharing. 56% of holds were filled by the patron's local library system. One of the things that's interesting to think about is that there were 1.2 million hold requests fulfilled and 11.2 million items checked out. So hold requests accounted for about 11% of all the materials that were checked out. That means almost 90% of the traffic was patrons coming into their local branch, finding something to read and checking it out. Here's a look at the nature of the material shared through resource sharing. 84% of the resource sharing was books, 11% was videos, and 3% were audiobooks. Looking at the nature of the material shared, 67% of the books and audiobooks were fiction, and 31% were nonfiction. Looking at the volume of incoming versus outgoing resource sharing material is always interesting as well. In this chart, the green bars are the counts of materials sent, and the blue bars are the counts of materials received. Here's a look at student access activity for the last 5 years. This year, we had 34 library systems participating in 46 counties. This year, we broke 30,000 authentications in a month for the first time. The behavior for both checkouts and online authentications is very cyclical, but generally is trending upwards. Online authentication sessions, shown here in blue, have peaks in the fall and dips around the holidays, and peaks again towards the end of the school year. Interestingly, book circulations, shown here in blue or in brown, have their peaks over the summer. So this year we activated about 65,000 additional student access accounts, bringing the total to 557,000 accounts. Despite these increasing numbers, we saw fewer unique users for both circulations and authentications. I think this points to an opportunity for better promotion and engagement with the students and teachers to encourage usage of the accounts we're creating. And now we'll turn our attention towards some of the projects and activities that Cardinal undertook this past year. This year, one of the big projects we had going on in the background was a project to figure out how to make batch changes the bibliographic records to clean up known cataloging issues. Over the course of this past year, this process has been used to make 8.4 million edits to our existing MARC records. This chart shows the number of bib records we edited each week using this new process. One of the first steps in this process was to discuss with the cataloging committee which MARC fields are necessary, unnecessary, or simply just undefined by LOC standards. This allowed us to create a list of MARC tags to keep or delete. We could then search for MARC records with fields to get rid of, batch export those records, remove those records, and readjust the records into the catalog. We also did a similar process looking at validly defined subfields for each individual MARC tag. We use this process to fix records without format icons, remove subject headers from vocabularies that we don't use, normalize ISBNs, add GMDs, and other types of edits that we can safely do in bulk. This process has been a big step forward in identifying and correcting lingering issues in our catalog, and we hope it will have an impact on the efficiency of our duplication process.
Over the past few years, we've been working on a software patch that overhauls the whole targeter so that items closer to the pickup library are chosen before those that are farther away. Our patch connects to a third-party geolocation service to calculate the distance between the pickup library and all of the libraries in our consortium with potential copies. Each potential copy is sorted by distance so that copies with shorter distances are evaluated first. This gives the targeter a higher likelihood of selecting a nearby copy rather than a distant one. Distance wasn't the only aspect we reconsidered for this project. A couple Cardinal systems are within areas that FedEx considers to be remote. These systems cost substantially more to deliver to than their neighbors. We've put them in their own tier so that their copies will only be evaluated after every other systems, even if the remote systems are closest to the pickup library. During our fall upgrade last year, we rolled out our geolocation patch to production. We enabled the feature one system at a time to ensure that any glitches could be addressed before the consortium as a whole got a hold of it. However, the rollout was a complete success. We didn't encounter any issues. We've been collecting data since then, and the results look great. This chart shows the relative distance things are traveling before and after the whole targeter proximity changes. The red line represents the changes that took place. Left to right is a ranked distance of how far things are being sent, with 1 being the closest library and 50 being the furthest away, relative to each individual sender. Prior to the change, there is a more even distribution from left to right, meaning that things were traveling farther away. After the change, the vast majority of the materials are being sent to the 5 nearest libraries to the sender. I've been working with Mobius and Benjamin to hammer out the details of the password overhaul project. With the latest developments, the overhaul is now more robust than ever. We've introduced the concept of password policies, customizable at every org unit to allow for maximum configurability. Policies determine the requirements for passwords, including how strong they need to be, how long they're valid for, and whether or not the user must update their password in order to log in. These passwords are assigned to specific permission groups so that patrons can maintain their simplistic passwords and admin can have more complex ones. In the current version of Evergreen, staff are only able to update their passwords by logging in or logging out of the staff client and using their staff credentials to log into the public catalog. As of this update, any staff member will be able to update their own password freely. If a user's password has expired, they will not be able to continue using the staff client until their password has been updated. We'll be rolling out these changes with our usual fall upgrade this year. Evergreen is open source software, which means that anyone can contribute their time to it. This last fiscal year, I had several of my patches make it into Evergreen's main code base. Now, everyone who installs the newest version of Evergreen will receive my additions to the software. These are mostly small things like missing permissions, broken pop-up boxes, and missing tests. The largest patch of mine that got accepted was the ability to sort text columns in Angular pages. It can take a long time for code to make its way through the process of being accepted by the community. I had initially created that patch all the way back in 2021.
With the goal of finding a way to reduce costs and improve services to member libraries, a pilot test was administered in January and February of this year, in which Buncombe County volunteered to serve as the test library and would use UPS to ship packages to other libraries in the consortium. The hope was that UPS would prove to be a cheaper option than FedEx, but unfortunately, it ended up being more expensive. We ultimately found that UPS was on average approximately $3.86 more expensive per package than FedEx. As a result, we made the decision to stay with FedEx. However, this coming year, we are planning to research different courier services that we might be able to use for resource sharing instead of FedEx. We are currently in the very early stages of the planning process and will share more information in the future. Soon we will begin requesting proposals from different courier services to gain a better idea of costs, services, and other factors that will need to be taken into consideration. We recently sent a survey to the resource sharing contacts for member libraries, asking them to select their desired days for pickups and deliveries during the week, and will use this data when speaking with different courier services. Additionally, in an effort to help clarify a number of policies and procedures for resource sharing, new tutorials were added to the Knowledge Book. Johnston County created a video tutorial demonstrating how to properly pack boxes for shipment, and Polk County created a step-by-step photographic textual guide to packing materials. And with the assistance of the User Experience Committee, a draft document of guidelines and procedures for handling damaged materials, fines and fees, and other frequently asked questions was drawn up. Johnston County is currently using this document to create a similar tutorial to those described above. Once this tutorial has been completed, both it and the finalized version of the document will be added to the Resource Sharing Knowledge Book. In an effort to make sure that the links to electronic resources in the catalog were up to date and directed users to existing resources, we decided to refresh all of the electronic resource records in the catalog, including NC Kids, NC Digital Library, and e-ink Library in the catalog. We have a monthly process to add and remove electronic resources from Overdrive to remove records from the catalog that are for resources that are no longer available. However, these files do not always catch all records to be weeded. If a record has been manually edited in Evergreen, for example, the automated process will no longer recognize it, and this can lead to records that have links for resources that are no longer available. So first we requested full records files from NC Kids, NCDL, and e-ink, and we uploaded these as weed files to try and catch as many outdated records in the catalog as possible with the automated process. Then we used SQL queries to see how many resource records remained in the catalog. This revealed to us records that were not being managed by the automated process. We exported the non-Overdrive records, cleaned them up in MarcEdit, and then re-imported them. Once we confirmed that all of the Overdrive records had been cleaned, we re-uploaded the full records files. Several libraries let us know that they did not want to see electronic resources in their search results, so we offered libraries the opportunity for libraries to opt out of having e-resource records appear in their catalog searches. This is something we can still do for other libraries that might be interested. We occasionally receive requests for recommendations from library staff regarding the best software or technology to use in their libraries. At times, these can be difficult for us to make because we do not have access to or experience with the various brands and forms of software and technology available to libraries. Thus, we will typically appeal to the larger Cardinal community to gather their input and suggestions. To that end, we felt that it would prove fruitful to survey member libraries so that we can gather all of this information into a single place for ease of reference in the future. We received responses from 45 of the 52 member library systems and collected their responses into a PowerPoint document that is located in the Docs and Files section of the Cardinal Directors Basecamp group. In this slide, you can see a sampling of the questions and responses. Next to each response, you will see the approximate percentage of times it was selected. We would encourage you to review the full document. We hope that this information will help you in the future when you are looking to update your equipment or software. We also encourage you to continue to reach out to staff from other member libraries for their experiences with different types of software and technology. The Cataloging Committee worked on a number of different projects this year, including the annual deduplication project in the spring and the implementation of Marchive's Homosaurus Thesaurus to help create a more inclusive catalog. They also continued to be a source of expertise as we addressed and clarified numerous cataloging policies and procedures, including, but not limited to, records merging, compiling a list of necessary versus unnecessary mark fields, and improving subject searches. Committee members were also instrumental in the planning and facilitation of other projects, such as developing an automated deduplication process specifically for videos and distributing needs humans lists of matching records for review by the cataloging community of Cardinal at large. The deduplication process included a review of potentially matching bibliographic records and tweaking the criteria used to determine if records are duplicates, such as format, ISBN numbers, OCLC numbers, and so on. After extensive review by the Cataloging Committee, new parameters were added to the criteria this year to help increase the precision of the dedupe process. This continuing tweaking of the process saw a substantial increase from last year's resulting 14,928 matches and merges to this year's 62,192 matches and merges, with 23,929 matches set aside for human review compared to last year's 47,114. As a reminder, serials, DVDs, Blu-rays, VHS tapes, microforms, and software are not merged as part of the dedupe. The results of the automated deduplication process are presented in an Excel spreadsheet with different sheets based on format labeled Auto and Needs Humans. The Auto sheets include the records that were merged by the automated process. The Needs Humans sheets include those records that were matched by the process but were otherwise considered just different enough that the process did not merge them into a single record. They have been put aside for human review. With the assistance of the Cataloging Committee, we created record buckets for each member library that had titles on the Needs Humans list in an effort to more easily and clearly present these records to catalogers for review. The lists were split up in this manner so that catalogers would primarily be responsible for records most relevant to them. If, in reviewing a record or records, they found that they needed to refer back to their physical copy, they would be able to do so, as the records in their buckets are based on those with their items attached. Additionally, merge and overlay profiles were created for different item formats that catalogers can use when merging records, so that the necessary fields from the sub-bib are copied over to the lead bib. Once the buckets were created, they were sent to catalogers, and catalogers were asked to review the records in these buckets to determine whether or not they should be merged. As previously mentioned, the annual automated deduplication process does not include videos among the formats that it reviews for merging. Video records tend to be more complex than book or audiobook records, and much of the criteria used for matching book records would not easily translate or otherwise be entirely irrelevant to video records. Out of an abundance of caution, video records are excluded from our normal dedupes to prevent the possibility of too many false positives. However, after the success of this year's dedupe, we decided to move forward with an automated deduplication process specifically for video. This will be a separate deduplication process because the criteria for videos are substantially different. With the assistance of the Cataloging Committee, a list of potential criteria for matching video records was put together and shared with Mobius. They coded the process and performed a test run that resulted in example Auto and Needs Humans lists for review. These sample results were reviewed and additional tweaks were made to the criteria. Eventually, the criteria will be finalized and the actual deduplication process will be run. This is a project that is planned for the remainder of this year. Once the video deduplication has been run, the resulting needs humans lists will be separated out into record buckets, as with the current deduplication process, and shared with catalogers for their review.
The User Experience Committee also worked on a variety of projects this year, primarily involving testing changes to software and reviewing policies. The committee worked through October to test Evergreen 3.11 in the next server and provide feedback. Some of this testing and feedback was used to log and address bugs early in the upgrade cycle, and some was used to identify training needs. As future changes to the password requirements have been added to the next environment, members of the committee have tested them and shared feedback. A major project was the review of the multi-card policy. This committee worked to create a survey asking how libraries handle card requests from patrons outside their service area. The results of that survey were analyzed, and that analysis was discussed by the committee to develop a set of recommendations about the policy's current efficacy and interpretation, as well as recommendations for future updates to the policy. Courtney Brown worked to develop a set of guidelines and best practices to improve communication on Basecamp, and the UX committee reviewed these guidelines and provided feedback. In preparation for potential updates to the resource sharing best practices and policies, the UX committee also reviewed these existing policies and provided feedback. The committee provided test responses to the annual staff survey and made recommendations for edits and additions prior to publication. One of the big policy discussions the UX committee undertook this year was a review of the NC Cardinal multi-card policy. We put together a survey to see how libraries in the consortium are currently interpreting the policy. We had a response from about 42% of our libraries. From this survey, we discovered that around 30% of the responding libraries have a separate local policy about providing cards to patrons from outside their service area, ranging from a complete lockdown of cards for external patrons, all the way to official policies to provide cards to all residents of North Carolina, regardless of county residence. Through this survey, we did confirm that the current policy is interpreted differently throughout the consortium and causes some confusion among both staff and patrons. Some of the biggest points of confusion for staff are when to issue a local card to a patron who already has a card from another NC Cardinal library, and how to apply local policies to patrons from other systems. Some of the major issues with patrons that arise from this varied implementation of the policy include patrons seeking cards from a new system to avoid paying fines in their home system, and using multiple cards to exceed checkout limits. We also had a number of respondents mention that expired cards from other systems cause issues, in part because staff are not always clear about whether they should extend expiration dates on external cards. Based on these responses, we are discussing the future of the multi-card policy. The survey included a question about comfort level with different potential policies, and you can see the responses here in this chart. The most popular potential policy is a policy that explicitly allows patrons to get a card in any system where they own property or pay taxes. Similarly, many respondents like the idea of a policy that allows patrons to get a card for a system where they work or attend school. However, just as popular was a policy that limits patrons to a single card that works in any NC Cardinal library, regardless of residency status, property ownership, or any other factors. The committee agreed that any final policy that allows for multiple cards should utilize grouping to reduce the ability for patrons to avoid paying fines. The UX committee was really helpful with putting together the survey and analyzing the results. At this point, the policy discussion will move forward with the Cardinal team and the governance committee. Last year, we introduced our first in-person training opportunity since COVID. The UX committee was particularly helpful in the planning stage and provided valuable feedback about outreach and logistics. We hosted events in 5 different regions of the state. We learned as we went and grew these events to offer training and reports, cataloging, acquisitions, and hold management. Many of the sessions were hosted by library staff, showcasing the vast knowledge and expertise that you all have and sharing it with colleagues. We will continue this project into next year with some small changes. We will be splitting the Western region into 2 separate regions, allowing closer options for libraries in what was our largest region last year. While initial information about the sessions will be sent directly to staff at the libraries in a given region, staff from libraries outside that region will be able to attend whichever training opportunity is convenient for them. Government libraries will have the opportunity to attend a specialized training event aimed at their particular needs rather than a region-based event. The process of planning this is still underway.
While participating in group discussion activities during the 2023 in-person annual meeting, we found that the use of Basecamp to be a recurring topic. Although library staff appreciate the communication platform, library staff voiced their concerns on several issues relating to the use of Basecamp. The number of emails or communications received daily, conversations shared with general population that should instead be shared with specific members, and the tone portrayed between staff while communicating in Basecamp. To address these concerns, the User Experience Committee and the Cardinal team have established a few best practices and techniques to assist library staff with using Basecamp to produce effective and meaningful communication. To go along with the Basecamp best practices, I'm creating a specific knowledge book chapter to provide library staff with links to short training videos and step-by-step instructions regarding using common features and filtering options. If needed, we're also happy to discuss creating live trainings as well. Now we'll turn our attention towards our new Cardinal libraries. During our 2023-24 migration season, we migrated only one library system into the consortium, Warren County Public Library. This brought NC Cardinal to a total of 64 counties, 6 municipalities, 7 special libraries, and 225 branches. For the 2024-25 migration season, we will welcome 2 new library systems into Cardinal, Robeson County Public Library and Brunswick County Public Library. At the conclusion of the 24-25 migration season, the consortium will consist of 66 counties, 6 municipalities, 7 special libraries with a total of 233 branches. Robeson County Public Libraries has branches in St. Paul's, Maxton, Red Springs, Rowland, Fairmont, Pembroke, and their main branch in Lumberton. Robeson County is set to go live September 12, 2024. Brunswick County Public Library has 5 branches: Southport, Charlotte, Leland, Oak Island, and Carolina Shores. Brunswick County is set to go live December 12, 2024. Now we'll move on to our support activity. Here's a look at our support traffic over the past year, broken down on a weekly basis. This year we had 4,081 tickets with an average of about 78 tickets a week or 16 tickets a day. And now we'll have a look at the results of our staff survey.
This year's annual staff survey looked back at some of our standard questions while asking some new ones about changes made over the course of this year. As always, this survey will help us to understand your support and training needs, bring to light bugs or wish list items that may not have been on our radar, and prioritize projects in the coming year. This year saw another increase in the response rate, though not quite as large as last year's. We had just under a 3% increase in the number of respondents, with a total of 428 individuals completing the survey. Even better, these individuals represented staff from 98% of Cardinal libraries, giving us a wide sample of data to work with. We asked about a total of 62 functions across 7 categories. Of those 62 functions, 25 had more than 30% of respondents expressing some level of discomfort with those functions. This does mean that respondents were generally comfortable or very comfortable with more than 50% of the functions across Evergreen. We will continue to focus on providing training in the areas where discomfort was expressed, as well as improved documentation. A handful of functions have discomfort levels above 50%, and these will be our top priority. We're planning a lot of holds-related training this year, which will include coverage of hopeless holds. Our cataloging training, both at regional in-person events and webinars, will include coverage of marked batch edits. Admin training will cover customizing the staff portal page and working with carousels. Prior to the upgrade this fall, we will do more training in offline mode as well. A number of functions with high levels of discomfort were in the area of acquisitions, so I will work on developing some more specialized training in that area this spring. And of course, reports continue to be a pain point for a lot of you, so we will continue offering plenty of training and reports at different levels, both in person and via webinar. We're expecting some changes to the reports interface in the next upgrade, and we'll begin offering this training after the upgrade is complete. This year, we again asked you to share your thoughts and feedback to us in the survey. You all offered lots of thoughtful comments and suggestions, and we spent quite a lot of time combing through these responses. We identified 42 distinct categories into which these comments fit. As you can see in this slide, the most frequent categories were reports and search functionality. The Evergreen developers community has been hard at work addressing both of these areas. We're expecting to see some exciting changes to the reports interface in the next upgrade, and as always, we will continue to offer training and support with reporting. Other areas where we saw lots of comments include requests for training, which we are trying to meet with our changes to the training schedule, and the interfaces, both in the staff client and the OPAC. If you would like to see the comments and our responses to them, they are posted in the About NC Cardinal Knowledge book in Chapter 5.4. For those suggestions and requests related to software issues, we've submitted bugs where appropriate or added heat to existing bugs. For those related to NC Cardinal specific policies or practices, we have reviewed them and plan to implement changes when feasible over the coming year. For many of them, the changes are already live. Additionally, we have implemented a new feature in our ticketing system in which users can submit anonymous suggestions. This new feature will allow you to send us your comments, feedback, and suggestions all year, not just during the annual survey. When submitting these requests, we ask that you include as much detail as possible so that we can address your request or concern correctly. If you wish to be contacted, you may include your name and email, but it's not necessary if you wish to remain anonymous. Thanks as always for your feedback. These comments are what allow us to continue to grow NC Cardinal and provide the most robust service that we can. So let's turn our attention towards the projects the team will tackle in the upcoming year. This year, we are planning to increase our virtual training opportunities. Rather than trying to provide comprehensive overviews of entire workflows in Evergreen, we will be focusing on providing shorter, more targeted sessions looking at specific functions. At this point in the year, we have already provided sessions on bibliographic record reports, hold types, and patron accounts. Next month, we will be hosting a session on working with the item attributes page. Additionally, throughout the year, look for sessions on billing and payments, buckets, baskets, lists, and carousels, customizing your Evergreen interface, holds management, inventory and weighting, monograph parts, offline training, resource sharing, SLAM training, transferring copies, merging records, and cataloging in batch. I'll also be continuing to offer hands-on workshops for acquisition staff to prep for the fiscal year end and the walk through the end of the year closeout. And I will be offering a variety of sessions related to the planned upgrade. You can find out what sessions are coming up in the new training landing page in the About NC Cardinal Knowledge book. This is Chapter 3.5. We know we won't cover all your needs this year, so please continue to let us know what you need help with, and we will either try to fit it in this year or put it on the list for next year. All of the sessions are recorded and uploaded to the NC Cardinal YouTube channel. In the coming year, we will also begin offering a monthly drop-in Q&A meeting. These are informal training opportunities in which the Cardinal team is present to provide answers to questions or demonstrations of functions that cause confusion. Each month will have a topical focus, but conversation can lead us to discuss anything attendees ask about. So far, we have hosted 2 of these. We discussed resource sharing in July and reports in August. These sessions will typically be hosted on the 3rd Thursday of each month at 12 noon. A link to the WebEx session is now embedded in the Evergreen splash page and will go live about 10 minutes before noon on the scheduled day. You can see a list of upcoming dates and topics on the splash page, as well as in the knowledge books on our new Cardinal Training Opportunities page.
This chart shows the number of SMS messages we send every month, split up by the kinds of notices they are. In the months ahead, we will be implementing a new service called Message B to send out SMS messages for hold available notices. The current process, Evergreen relies on email messages to the patron's carrier that are then delivered as texts. This method is vulnerable to spam, so phone carriers have been blocking more and more of the messages we send. Our new service will be sending the SMS messages from an actual phone number that is unique to each library system, which should avoid the pitfalls of our current method. Each library will have their own dashboard that will allow them to log in and see delivery success and the texts that bounced back. With the new service, we incur charges for each text sent, so we'll be focusing on rolling out the hold ready notices to evaluate the effectiveness of the service. These are shown in the chart here in light blue. We will be coordinating with Mobius to update Evergreen's cataloging reports in a few different ways. Because each of these tasks will require significant development on Mobius's part, we have elected to combine them into a single project to help ease the burden on Mobius. Many of you who have been working with the cataloging reports are likely aware that the ignore button does not currently function as intended without some significant workarounds. Mobius will be working to resolve this issue, and we intend to add additional reports to the interface, including orphaned bibs and short bibs. We would also like to one day perhaps add the needs humans records to these reports for ease of review, but that may be outside the scope of this particular project at this time. In an effort to simplify and streamline all of the various circulation and hold policies across the consortium, we will be performing consultations with member libraries regarding their specific circulation and hold policies to see if it might be possible to consolidate multiple similar policies into a single Cardinal-wide policy. We will provide each library with a list of their circulation and hold policies for review. The hope is that this will help to minimize confusion and to reconcile conflicting policies. Additionally, it will help us to better understand why a specific policy may have been implemented originally so that we can make sure our own internal documentation is as up to date as possible. Another project is related to the quarterly Marchive Authorities update. As you may be aware, every quarter Marchive adds new authority records to Evergreen and updates existing ones. They also provide us with deletion files as well, intended to remove old or outdated authority records from Evergreen. However, there is currently no mechanism in place to process these deletion files. The process that adds the new authority records and updates existing ones is not coded to delete records. This will be another substantial development project for Mobius, and we will be collaborating with them on this in the coming year. Once this new process has been set up, future Marchive updates will be able to add new authority records, update existing ones, and delete any obsolete records that might still be in Evergreen. This will be one more method for keeping our catalog accurate and up to date.
All right, so with that, we want to thank everybody who has joined us today.